So phylogenetic trees, this is not your first time hearing the term phylogenetic tree because you've been working with phylogenetic trees from your grade 11 until now, right? So phylogenetic trees are otherwise known as your cladograms. Those are known as cladograms. Cladograms or phylogenetic trees, those are diagrams that show evolutionary relationships among various species. Okay? So remember, guys, we said that species can come from one common ancestor. When we explained speciation last time, we talked about that if we have got an initial, maybe a population, an initial population of a certain organism or, yeah, an initial species, it can be divided by a geographic area or something like that. And then a natural selection will happen independently on both sides. And then they will end up becoming different species. So basically, you guys should know that basically we can be able to relate the species to their common ancestors. Okay. So we need to know how to interpret the diagrams known as the phylogenetic trees. Phylogenetic trees usually see them having this shape. They look like trees, like literally they've got some branches and they've got some couple of sections. What you need to know as a grade 12 learner is how to interpret a phylogenetic tree. What you need to know as a grade 12 learner is how to actually know what does this phylogenetic tree mean. Okay. So now, how do we interpret a phylogenetic tree? All right. So the phylogenetic tree has got a root as well as the tip of the tree. All right. When we talk about the root of the tree, it is where the tree begins. Basically, when we want to interpret a phylogenetic tree, we actually analyze it from the bottom to the top. Okay. For example, this is a phylogenetic tree. I'm sure you guys can see it. And whenever we want to interpret this phylogenetic tree, we have to interpret it from the bottom to the top. Okay. So the bottom part of the phylogenetic tree, like where the phylogenetic tree begins, you can see that it begins here where there is a red box here. Okay. Remember, I started at the bottom, like the most bottom part of the phylogenetic tree. This most bottom part of the phylogenetic tree is a root of the phylogenetic tree. What does it represent? It represents the ancestor, or it represents the oldest species. So basically, when we are going from bottom to top in a phylogenetic tree, it means that we are moving from the past or from the older times to the recent times. Okay? So whenever we are at the bottom part of the phylogenetic tree, or whenever we are at the root of the phylogenetic tree, where the phylogenetic tree begins, that is telling us about the past species, okay? The ancestors, the species of the olden times, okay? So now the roots or the beginning here at the bottom of this phylogenetic tree, this represents the ancestor, all right? Now the ancestor, what happens? We have got the tips as well. The tips of a phylogenetic tree, like these points here of a phylogenetic tree, these are known as the descendants. These are the descendants. So these tips, whenever we go like to these tips, like to these ends here of the phylogenetic tree, these tips are known as the descendants. They represent the descendants. So for example, in this particular case, you guys can see that we've got descendant number 1, descendant number 2, descendant number 3, descendant number 4. What are descendants? The descendants of the ancestor simply means that these are the organisms that come from the ancestors. Okay, these organisms, all of them, they come from the ancestor, or they are bred by the common ancestor. Okay, so for them to exist, the common ancestor had to be there. For example, you are a descendant of your ancestors as well, because for the mere fact that you exist, you come from the people of the past. So the people of the past, aka your ancestors, those are the ancestors of the old times, and you are their descendant. You are their descendant. For example, your brother as well. You can count other generations, maybe your brother, your cousin, and all of them. You guys are coming from the old people or from those ancestors. So the root of the clerogram or the root of the phylogenetic tree is your ancestors, or these are the people of the past or organisms of the past in this context. And then the tips of the phylogenetic tree, which are these ends here, these sharp ends of the phylogenetic trees. These are the descendants. All of these, they represent the children or the descendants, the organisms that actually arise from the ancestor, the organisms that came from the ancestor. Those are your what? Those are your descendants. So I repeat again, grade 12, the root of the cladograms, it represents the ancestor, which is the old species or the old organisms that existed in the past. The ancestor existed in the past. Okay. So this one existed in the past. It existed in the past or in the olden times. And then now that ancestor that existed in the olden times, it later on developed some descendants. The descendants are the children, or these are the present organisms or the recent organisms. The recent organisms that came from what? That came from the ancestor. The recent organisms that came from the ancestor. All right. I repeat again for the last time. The root where the phylogenetic tree begins, it is the old species, the one that existed in the past.
Hey Lapo, I know that you've been enjoying this wonderful video and most likely you've been enjoying watching this handsome face in front of you, but sorry ladies, I'm taken. I just here to tell you that Educate is on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you get notifications whenever I post new videos. I want you guys to pass. Okay, so if you make my dream true, I reach 100k subscribers, I will make your dreams come true. I will even get you to varsity. I will get you with 7 distinctions. Yes.
So since guys, I'm saying the root of the phylogenetic tree or the bottom part of the phylogenetic tree here, it shows you the ancestor, and the tips, they show you the descendants. Now we ask ourselves, what does the branch represent? Because this tree has got a branch, okay? So basically, the ancestor undergoes speciation to be able to form different descendants. Remember, guys, we said that speciation is the formation of new species, right? So we start with one original population that is of the same species, and then maybe there is a geographic barrier that separates these two species, right? And when they are now separated, they are all undergoing natural selection independently. That's what we explain speciation as. Even if you mix the organisms at the end of the day, they will not be able to reproduce. They will not be able to breed to produce fertile offspring. So here, the ancestor, when we now go up with our phylogenetic tree, let me just zoom in so that this one becomes an active. Please pay careful attention to what I will be doing here. So we are moving from the ancestor here. Please take note of my pen. That is the one that's moving here. Okay, so this is moving from the ancestor. And then when we are moving along this line of the ancestor, we see a branching that is occurring here because the line is separating into two main parts. It is going that direction, and it is also going in another direction. Let me just use another color. It's branching into two parts. Can you all see that, guys? Can you see that the ancestor line, the line coming from the ancestor there, it is branching into two parts? Are you guys able to see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes, and then when it branches, you find out that it will go to the top again and it will branch again for the second time. Here it is branched into this section here. It is branched into this section here. And then it has also branched into another section here. So there is branching that is happening here because the line is kind of separating. And then after this branching, we are forming descendant number 2. But if we are following this green branch that we have at first here, we are forming descendant number 1. If we keep on tracing with this purple line here, and we go up here, it also branches again, or it also separates. It separates into this descendant, which is descendant number 4, as well as descendant number 3 on this other side, which I'm indicating with the yellow, descendant number 3. So what does this mean, grade 12? We need to know how to interpret or how to explain the whole meaning of this. So a common ancestor undergoes speciation. It simply means that the population separates, and then later on, after speciation occurs, they become different species. Okay? Remember, guys, please go back to the speciation video. I recorded it. It's also there on YouTube. Please go back again. Speciation simply means that one original population, it is splitting into two. And then those two groups, they are now becoming different from one another. They are now going to be different species. Even if you try to make them to interbreed, they will not be able to produce fertile offspring. So ngamanye amazwi, in other terms, they are now different species. They are now organisms of different species, but they came from one type of species. But even if you try to mate them, if you try to put them in the same environment, they fail to interbreed. So here the ancestor underwent speciation. So this branching here, I'm using different colors to show you guys that this branching that is happening here, or this separation of these two lines here, it shows that there is speciation. It's a speciation event that is occurring. When we talk about a speciation event, it is an event whereby one population or one species, it is forming two different species. So in this case, the species that were formed initially from this ancestor, it is this green species, which is descendant number 1, and this red species, this one, which is not labeled, this is a red species. Okay. And when we continue moving on with the line for this red species, this line also branches as well at this point. So there's also a branching that is happening at this point here. So this branching as well, it also shows you another speciation event. Another speciation event. This is speciation event number 2. Okay. So speciation happened for the first time in this common ancestor, and we created descendant number 1, the green one here, as well as descendant number, this other descendant, which is the red one. It doesn't have any label. Then this red descendant, it also splitted as well. It also branched, or it also formed 2 different species as well. And what are those species? This is the second speciation event. It formed this purple species here, which is descendant number 2. So descendant number 2, it is formed from this red ancestor. Okay. And then it also formed another one, which is the purple one here. This purple one here, which is not given any label. This purple descendant, if we continue tracing it again and we go up, remember we move from bottom to top, we are going to see another branching for the 3rd time, grade 12 learners. Okay. The branching here is now happening at this point here. This is the 3rd speciation event, meaning that speciation is now happened for the 3rd time. Okay, this is speciation event number 3. It means that this purple organism, or this purple descendant, it now forms two descendants. Or this, you can say this is a purple ancestor, because remember, guys, that the descendants come from ancestors. All right. So here, this purple one, it is forming the yellow one, which is descendant number 3 here, as well as the red one, which is descendant number 4. So this is how to interpret the phylogenetic tree. I repeat again, in summary, grade 12. The whole purpose of a phylogenetic tree, it is to show how evolution occurred, or how evolution occurs in a certain species. Okay. So the old species, or the species of the past, is known as the ancestor. It is the one located at the bottom part of the phylogenetic tree, or of the cladogram. Now, when you move from top to bottom, you are moving from past to recent. That's how you interpret a phylogenetic tree. whenever you see a branching or whenever you see the line splitting into two different lines, when the line splits into two different lines, it simply means that a speciation event is occurring. It simply means that this purple ancestor, this purple ancestor, this purple ancestor, the one that we began with, it is now forming two different species. In this case, it is the red one and this pink one here. So it's forming two different descendants, or it's forming two different species. So that's speciation happening. There is a speciation event. And these two different species that are formed, they can also undergo speciation as well to form others as well. And then it continues and continues and continues. I urge you again, grade 12 learners, please go back and watch the speciation session. Understand what speciation is so that you can be able to model it using a phylogenetic tree. But at the end of this video, we're also going to do an example of a real phylogenetic tree and try to give some interpretation to it as well. Are we together, grade 12 learners?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, guys, pay careful attention. I will record the session. I will record the session as well. Pay careful attention. Go back to it's a bit tricky to understand for some, but I understand as well. Go back to the session of speciation. Understand how speciation occurs. What is speciation? So in general, the branching of the phylogenetic tree, or whenever the phylogenetic tree separates or splits into two distinct lines, this shows that the ancestral lineage is now undergoing a speciation event to form descendants, or you can say it's the daughter lineages. Okay, in simple terms, of course. Now, the other part of a phylogenetic tree that you need to know how to interpret, it is the uniqueness on the common ancestors. We've got unique ancestors, we have got common ancestors. All right. I repeat again, the ancestor, it is an organism that existed in the past, or an organism that was there in the olden times. And then that's an ancestor in general. But we can split our ancestors into two different parts. We have got unique ancestors. We also have got common ancestors. I'm sure you've already heard about common ancestors. We've talked about them quite a lot, but I will repeat once again for this particular context. Unique ancestors, we have got common ancestors. All right, let's use a diagram to show that. Okay, so now when we look at this phylogenetic tree, the phylogenetic tree provided here, it is showing an ancestor. Remember, where do we find the oldest ancestor? We find it here at the root of the phylogenetic tree, or we find it here at the base law, like at the bottommost part of the phylogenetic tree, like pansy. Hey guys, I am trying my best to make you understand this. So the common ancestor, it is found here at the root. Okay, but now this common ancestor, we say it's known as a common ancestor. Why do we say it's a common ancestor? It's a common ancestor to what and what actually? This red species here, it is a common ancestor of A, of B, and of C. What does this mean? It simply means that the descendants A, B, C, all of them, they came from the red ancestor, grade 12s. The descendants A, B, C, they all came from the red ancestor. Hence, we say it's known as a common ancestor. When you say it's a common ancestor, it means that it is common for all the organisms in the phylogenetic tree. So all the organisms that you are seeing here in the phylogenetic tree, they all arose from this ancestor, the red ancestor. A common ancestor is the one whereby all the descendants arise from. So all the descendants came from this common ancestor. So this common ancestor, as I've already stated, it underwent some speciation. So this red block is actually showing a speciation event whereby this common ancestor forms two species. In this case, it forms the species A, or the descendant A. This is a descendant A. So the descendant A here, it has been formed from the common ancestor. And then it also forms the other species, which is the one that I'm going to represent using green. Okay. but it's actually yellow, not green. It is this one, this ancestor here. All right. So the common ancestor here, what happens? It underwent some speciation. It means that it formed two different species. That's the theory behind evolution. The theory behind evolution simply says that we had a common ancestor, and that common ancestor forms different species. So we also believe that humans, they share a common ancestor with African apes because we've got similar characteristics. We've got the same order, as I've already explained, when it came to the primates and whatnot. So basically, in other words, I'm trying to say that the common ancestor underwent some speciation events, means that it formed two different species. And then those species, they proceeded and they did something else. In this particular case, the green species here, which is actually the yellow species here that has been formed from the common ancestor, it also formed two descendants. So it also underwent speciation. So this ancestor here, this block here, representing this green species coming from the red one. Remember, guys, the green one here is coming from the red one, like this one. It's the same as this one. It is coming from the red one. Remember, the common ancestor, the red ancestor, it underwent speciation. It formed two species, which is species A and then this one as well. So this one, the one that I'm using multiple colors on, the one that is having this brown color, it now proceeded and it formed what? It now proceeded and it formed B and C. So it formed B and C. Let's just use different colors there. It formed B, descendant B, as well as another descendant, which is the black one. Oh, it formed another one here. It formed another one. So here we have got a black species here. This species represented by a black color. It was formed from this brown species alongside this one, which is B. Now this black species, it further underwent its own processes. There was no speciation that happened here. So it further went on and formed the species C. Now let's interpret the shared ancestor, the common ancestor, and the unique one. The common ancestor, remember, it is the one that is common to all the descendants A, B, C, right? And then now when we look at this brown species, it is a shared ancestor of B and C. Why do we say it's a shared ancestor of B and C? Because the descendants B and the descendants C, all of them, they came from this one. They share this ancestor. It's like we are saying, your grandparents, let's just say your gogo and her brother, they are all coming from your great-grandparents. All right, so they are all sharing your great-grandparents. For example, you and your siblings are sharing your parents. So your parents are more like your shared ancestors. You and your siblings are sharing what? You guys are sharing parents, the same parent. So it's a shared ancestor. In this context, when we look at the descendant B and the descendant C, they are sharing this ancestor, the one painted in brown. It's a shared ancestor of B and C, shared ancestor. All of them, they are coming from it. But now when we proceed, we look at this black ancestor here. This black ancestor here, it is only leading to the formation of C. This black ancestor, you can see that this black ancestor that is put at this position, it is only associated with C alone. It's not associated with anything. So this one is a unique ancestor of C. Why do we say it's a unique ancestor? Because this ancestor is not shared by anyone else. Okay, you can see that C is the only descendant coming from this ancestor. There is no other species that is linked to this black ancestor. Okay, so these lines here, they are showing that these lines here in these blocks, they are showing that we've got common ancestors, shared ancestors, unique ancestors. And in summary, great, so if I repeat again, the common ancestor, it is the one that is shared by all descendants. This is the ancestor that is shared by all descendants. So all descendants come from it. So it is like the great-great-grandparent or let's just say this is the great grandparent. This is your common ancestor. This is your common ancestor. I'll just write CE. And then now that common ancestor undergoes speciation. It can undergo multiple speciation events. It forms what? It forms two. Maybe it forms your grandparent number 1 and grandparent number 2. Grandparent number 2. This is like a family tree, guys. And then after that, you already know that this grandparent, it can have 2 kids, maybe a kid number 1 and kid number 2. Maybe let's just say kid number 1 and kid number 2. And then the grandparent number 2, maybe it can only have 1 kid. Let's just say it can only have 1 kid. Let's just say this is kid number 3. When we interpret this family tree, grade 12s, this is the similar idea to a cladogram. The great-grandparents is your common ancestor. It is the one that is shared by all of these descendants. Our descendants here in this context are the grandchildren, these ones, which is 1, 2, and 3. These are your grandchildren. All of them, they are sharing one great-grandparent. All of them, they are coming from one great-grandparents. That is the only common thing between them. So that's their common ancestor. So these are your descendants. These are your descendants. And these are their common ancestors, which is what? Which is the great-grandparent. All of them, they are coming from him or her. Okay? But now when we look at descendant number 1 and descendant number 2, they've got a shared ancestor. What is the shared ancestor, guys, for descendant number 1 and number 2 here in this family tree? What is their shared ancestor? Descendant number 1 and descendant number 2. What is their shared ancestor?
Grand 1, so grandpa 1.
Yes, it's grandparent number 1, because you can see that descendant number 1 and descendant number 2, they are coming from grandparent number 1. So that's their shared ancestor. Yes, that's their shared ancestor. We don't call it common anymore because it is not common to number 3. Descendant number 3 has nothing to do with grand 1. They are not related in any way. But if you look at descendant number 1 and descendant number 2, they are sharing a grandparent. So the grand one, it is not a common ancestor. It is a shared ancestor. It's not common to descendant number 3, so we cannot really classify it as a common one. And then now when we look at descendant number 3, what can you say grand 2 is? What can you say grand 2 is? Let's just say with him. Grand 2, what is it to descendant number 3? Is it a common ancestor? Is it a shared ancestor? Or is it a unique ancestor of descendant number 3? Grandparent number 2. Is it a common ancestor? Is it a shared ancestor? Or is it a unique ancestor of grandparent number 2?
I'm saying it's unique.
Okay, why?
Ngoba seyodwa lapha eceleni.
Exactly. For me, you see that the descendant is not sharing grandparent number 2 with any other species. So in other words, these are the same species. There is no speciation that happened here. Okay, because there's only one line. Remember, speciation happens whenever there is a branching that's happening. So this is grand number 2. And when you look at descendant number 3, its unique ancestor is grandparent number 2. It does not have a shared ancestor because it's not sharing. It's not really sharing with anyone. Okay, but it has got a common ancestor with 1, 2, which is the great grandparent. So flip this, guys, because a phylogenetic tree, you interpret it from bottom to top. Just flip the same idea and you apply it to a phylogenetic tree. Do you understand, grade 12?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to clear this drawing so that I can be able to zoom out and proceed. So yeah, that's how you interpret a phylogenetic tree, guys. I spent a lot of time on this because I wanted you guys to have problems when it comes to interpreting phylogenetic trees. It's very important to know how to interpret such, because they play a big role, a very critical and a crucial role in analyzing how evolution happened between among different species. So we're going to use this as an example, your common, a typical textbook example of trying to interpret a phylogenetic tree. So here we are going to say our timeline is moving from bottom to top. And as we move from bottom to top, we already know that we are moving from past to present. So this is from past to present. The past that we are talking about, guys, we're not talking about your grandparents and your recent ancestors. No, we are talking about the ancestors from millions of years ago. So millions of years ago. For example, if you look at this timeline specifically, the timeline here starts at 6 million years ago. So this is 6 million years ago, this one. So it's 6 million years ago. So whenever you see 6 MYA in life sciences, this is 6 million years ago. This M is for million, Y is for years, and A is for ago. So you can see that the human evolution journey did not just start in the recent times. Okay, so it is something that is a theory that is being predicted to have started way back, like 6 million years ago. And then it is believed that 6 million years ago, according to this phylogenetic tree, you can see that 6 million years ago we had a hominin ancestor here. There is a hominin ancestor. I'm sure you guys can see the label here. Hominin ancestor. The hominin ancestor is the ancestor where everything started. That is our common ancestor. Okay, this is the common ancestor. So it is believed that this common ancestor, this a hominin common ancestor, it gave rise to each and every organism in the family of Hominidae, or your hominins. Okay, so now you can see that if we move on with this phylogenetic tree and we trace it, we go up. There is branching that's happening here. There is branching here. Okay, if we move up with it, there is branching or there is separation. You can see that the separation here, we are going to separate to form this species, which is a chimpanzee. So the oldest ancestor or the oldest hominin ancestor, it separated or it underwent the speciation so that it could form a chimpanzee. And it also formed another species which we didn't really give a name here. This other species here. Let me just zoom in one more time so that you guys can see. The hominin ancestor, our common ancestor here, it underwent speciation at this point. So this is a speciation event, okay? And it started forming what? It started forming a chimpanzee there on top, a chimpanzee. And it also formed another species here, the green one. The green one is another species. The green species now, it also underwent another speciation event, or it formed two species again. It formed Adipithecus ramidus. So we have got Adipithecus ramidus here. So this is an Adipithecus ramidus. You can see that here we form Adipithecus ramidus from this green species. We also form another species. Remember that whenever speciation occurs, we form two species from one. So this green species will form Adipithecus ramidus, and it will also form the following ones. We have got Australopithecus anamensis. Australopithecus anamensis. It is formed from what? It is formed from these green species. And then now we move on, we find Australopithecus afarensis. So now, please guys, tell me one thing. This Australopithecus afarensis, how does it relate to Australopithecus anamensis? If you can see the words properly. We have got Australopithecus afarensis here. This is Australopithecus afarensis. And then we have got Australopithecus anamensis. Australopithecus afarensis and anamensis. How do they relate with one another? Anyone to give me a logical explanation of how they relate?
Is it because they common ancestor?
Okay, let me rephrase my question. khona izothola impendulo based on into engiyibuzayo straight. So sino Australopithecus afarensis, right? This is Australopithecus afarensis, right? And we have got Australopithecus anamensis. We just want to relate the two of them alone, without mentioning their ancestors. Yes, give it a try.
Associations.
Okay, let's see
Wouldn't
one
it
by one,
be-
guys. You raise your hand during the meeting whenever you want to answer. Yes, Joyce.
Wouldn't it be they share the same genus?
Okay, yes, that's true. According to their name, yes, that's true because it's Australopithecus, both of them. Yeah, that's true. But I'm looking for the ancestral relationship for this particular case. What can you say about their ancestors? Which one is an ancestor of the other, and how do they relate? Based on what we just discussed on phylogenetic trees. Shall try again?
Ish. Same mina ngasho ukuthi ile yokuqala ni ancestor, and then lesibili yase
What type of ancestor?
speciation yaseyafomeka lesibili.
What type of ancestor is Australopithecus anamensis to Australopithecus afarensis? I don't know if you can see the words properly, but this is afarensis here. Afarensis. And then here is written anamensis. So I'm asking what is the relationship between Australopithecus afarensis and Australopithecus anamensis? Yes, Sam?
So isn't it a shared ancestor?
Sharing with who? Which other? What are they sharing actually?
I'm not say they are coming from that part of an Apithecus remedius, like they are sharing those Apithecus.
No, I'm talking about the two of them alone. Don't involve others, just the two of them alone. How do they relate with one another? Look at where they are, guys. I just explained this in Jewuti. We have got Australopithecus anamensis here at this point. We have got Australopithecus afarensis here. When you relate the two of them, don't involve others. Don't go back to their shared ancestor. No, don't go back to their shared ancestor. Just the two of them. What can you say about Australopithecus afarensis when you are relating it with Australopithecus anamensis? How are they like?
A unique ancestor.
Yeah, unique ancestor, guys. It's obvious what Australopithecus afarensis came from Australopithecus anamensis. Guys, the exact thing that I was talking about, Lan. Hey, you guys aren't paying attention. Let's just go back here one more time. What did I say here? I said, when you talk about ancestors, there are three types. We have got common ancestors, we have got shared ancestors, and unique ancestors. When you talk about a unique ancestor, they are on the same line. There is no speciation that happened there. They are of the same species to an extent. There is no speciation event. So this plague here, this plague is a unique ancestor of C. I even explained this, guys, with a grandparent, and I told you if we're having a grandparent and they say this is grandparent, I had written something like grandparent number 2, and I had written descendant number 3. Descendant number 3, it has got a unique ancestor, which is grandparent number 2, because there is no other descendants coming from grandparents number 2. Okay? A unique ancestor is only leading to one species, like it's not sharing with anyone. That's a unique ancestor. When you look at this particular scenario, okay, Australopithecus afarensis, you can see that it's coming from Australopithecus anamensis. You guys should use lines. You can use your pen or your crayon to trace the lines. Now, after this speciation event here, because we had a speciation event here at this point here, there's a speciation event, the one that led to the formation of Ardipithecus ramidus. That's a speciation event. After the speciation event, what happened? we had another species here that led to the formation of Australopithecus anamensis. But now Australopithecus anamensis proceeded and evolved to form Australopithecus afarensis. They have the same genus name as well. They are in the same generation, in other words, these two. But when you talk about the one that is the ancestor here, who came first here, guys, when we interpret from top to bottom, Australopithecus anamensis came first. Then in the same line, Australopithecus anamensis proceeded to form Australopithecus afarensis.